What's going on, y'all? This is John Alsace with Facemask Fantasy. We got new up-to-date fantasy content coming your way every day on this channel, so if you have not subscribed already, then please hit that button. But before we get into our main topic for today, my co-host Nick Payne put in a ton of work to give you guys a free 2021 Redraft draft kit available on our website, which can be found at facemaskpod.com. It's a great piece of content, something that other analysts might be charging you for, but we're giving it to you for free. So without further ado, let's get into some fantasy talk, and today I want to talk about Irv Smith Jr. Irv Smith Jr. is admittedly a my guy. He's one of those guys that I have in one of my most important dynasty leagues. He's a guy that I look for in all my redraft leagues late, and I just wanted to dig in a little bit to some reports that recently came out, specifically a report from ESPN's Courtney Cronin that stated that Irv Smith has, and I quote, continued to shine, end quote, in red zone drills at training camp. Now this is after Kyle Rudolph is gone after 10 years with the Minnesota Vikings. And early on in the training camp process, Tyler Conklin, fellow Minnesota tight end, got hurt with a mild hamstring injury, and as a result, Smith has gotten all of the looks in camp and is generating hype on a daily basis, it seems, out of Minnesota. Now, the coaching staff comments are a mixed bag, because the Vikings OC Clint Kubiak said, and I quote, Irv Smith is going to have more opportunities this season. But that contradicts with the comments made by the Vikings head coach, who has talked up fourth-year tight end Tyler Conklin all offseason up until his injury, stating that Smith's role isn't going to change. But let's be real. Smith stands to benefit the most from Kyle Rudolph's departure. Minnesota is expected to remain run-heavy under Kubiak, which should lead to tight end-heavy sets. So even if his role stays the same, Smith's target share is in a good spot to rise up, likely to the number 3 option behind Thielen and Jefferson, especially considering the injuries to Olabisi Johnson. No team in the NFL ran more 2 tight end sets than Minnesota did last season, not even New England. Both Smith and Conklin will be on the field a lot in 2021. And Conklin, I believe, will be on the field mostly as a blocker. Kyle Rudolph played 80% of the Vikings' offensive snaps over the past half-decade, and Smith was in on about 60% of offensive snaps when healthy across his first 2 seasons, and that's with Rudolph and Conklin on the roster. With likely more snaps coming his way, Smith, I believe, will essentially be the Vikings' third wideout. They signed D.D. Westbrook, they brought in Amir Smith-Marset through the draft, and they need to replace the spot that was previously held by Olabisi Johnson, who was injured this past offseason. Now, according to the coaching staff, Irv Smith reported to OTAs early in the offseason in phenomenal shape, and Irv Smith has come out himself and said that he expects his role to increase. So all this points to him having a larger role in 2021, but how high is his ceiling? Now let's go back in time a little bit. The Vikings selected Alabama tight end Irv Smith with the 50th overall pick in the 2019 NFL Draft. He came into the league at 6'2", 242 pounds, and he succeeded O.J. Howard as the Crimson Tide's primary tight end. In 2018, as a junior, he averaged 16.6 yards per catch and generated a 157.7 passer rating when targeted, which led all SEC tight ends. We like the SEC conference when projecting NFL talent because that's the most competitive conference in college football. Irv Smith's 40 speed also impressed for a tight end, as he had a 4.63 40. Since 2000, his 40 time at the combine was the 7th fastest of all 6'2" tight ends. For comparison's sake, that puts him a 10th of a second quicker than Jordan Reed, who was a monster to defend in his prime when he was healthy. Now, since he's been in the NFL, Smith has shown flashes of potential in his limited roles. Despite sharing a role with Rudolph and Conklin last year, Smith's 7 deep targets ranked 13th at the position. His average target distance of 8.3 ranked 10th, and he was 2nd at the position in fantasy points per target. On a per-play basis, he was hyper-efficient, and Smith did about all he could with his limited snaps that he was given, and when Rudolph has been out of Minnesota, Smith has produced. Smith has averaged 10.68 PPR points per game without Rudolph, seeing an uptick in all his numbers. Over the course of a full season, if you extrapolate his numbers without Rudolph, it would have equated to 51 receptions for 621 yards and 10 touchdowns. Just for reference, Logan Thomas was a top 5 tight end in many scoring formats last season, and he had 670 yards and 6 touchdowns. So again, if you extrapolate Smith's numbers without Rudolph over the course of a full 16-game season, he's projected at least to have 4 more touchdowns than Logan Thomas did last season, when Logan Thomas put up some of the best point totals for a tight end in the NFL. And Irv Smith is just 23 years old. His birthday was on August 9th, so he's a young 23 years old. He's got a ton of long-term potential, especially considering his role in the Minnesota offense. I like Smith in all formats. In season long, he's a late round option at tight end that should finish in the top 10 if the numbers I project for him in terms of red zone work and TDs ends up coming to fruition. I expect him to be a TD threat week in, week out, and at the position of tight end, where if you don't get a top 4, top 5 option, you're basically punting. He's a huge buy for me. In Dynasty, I like him even more than I like him in season long leagues. Again, he just turned 23. And he's already taken the TE1 role in an offense with targets to go around and a QB that is adequate enough to get him the ball. Now, Cousins isn't great, but he isn't terrible either. And while he may be on his way out sooner than later, I'd bet on Irv Smith being a building block alongside Cook and Jefferson for this team for years to come. Again, Conklin, his only competition this season, is injured and he's 27. So even if we're looking at this from a dynasty lens, take the injury out of the equation. When Conklin ages out at the age of 31, which is typically the age we see tight ends regress at, Irv Smith will only be 27 himself. So I love him in Dynasty, especially in tight end premium leagues. Smith, for me, is an absolute buy everywhere. So what do you guys think about Irv Smith Jr.? Put your thoughts in the comment section below. My name is John Alsace, and this is Facemask Fantasy. We bring you new up-to-date fantasy content every day right here on this channel, so if you have not subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you for listening and have a great day.